Hey everyone, welcome back to a new season of New Food Fridays. This is going to be season 2, episode number 1 at Shogun in Salinas, California. Shogun is a Japanese style restaurant at downtown Salinas, 216 Main. And I actually have myself a good friend that's going to be accompanying me to dinner. Jim?
Greetings.
Greetings. Hello. And the new season, the style I'm going to do a little different is we're going to basically have a biography style documentary. Talk about Jim and how he's been doing with his life. How you been doing?
I'm still here.
He's still here.
I'm vertical and I'm ventilating.
Awesome. All right. So with that said, let's get going and see what Jim's all about. All right. All right, everyone. So like I told you guys, we got our buddy Jim here. Hey, Jim.
Howdy.
And this is just more of an experiment for me to try something new. As you guys know, it's New Food Fridays. We want to try new food, new culture, and Shogun, Japanese style food, is something I've never tried before. But also, I've never actually really did a documentary style interview. So this is new to me. So with that said, Jim?
Yes.
Well, you go ahead and give us your bio from birth to the age of more or less 18 in a nutshell. Basically, where were you born?
Okay, I'll make this very quick. It was a dark and stormy night.
Dun,
No,
dun,
they've already
dun.
written that. I was born in Salinas, California at the Park Lane Hospital, which is now Catherine Convalescent. And on June 1st, 1944. And a couple of days later, I went to my home in Spreckles, where I still currently live at, almost 73 years later.
Wow.
And I went to Spreckles School.
Spreckles School.
And graduated there in the 8th grade with a whole 13 other students.
Nice.
And
so it's a small community.
Yes.
Spreckles to this day is still a small community.
Yeah, it's about 900 people today, but when I was growing up there, it was about 560.
Nice.
Then I went to Washington Junior High for the 9th grade, and then Salinas High for 10th, 11th, and 12th, and graduated from there in 1962.
Which is still there. Same building.
Which is still there, same building.
Awesome.
And we're having our 55th class reunion in a couple of months.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So, as a juvenile,
Delinquent, yes.
many years ago, what was your favorite food?
Tallerini.
Tallerini. What's a tallerini?
It's Swiss Italian, noodles, corn, meat, olives.
It's like
eggs.
everything in one, right? Just throw it all in a blender.
And it's very common here in Salinas Valley, and I love it. I like barbecue ribs. My theory on food has always been, if I can crawl faster than it crawls, it gets eaten.
What is your best experience as a juvenile? What do you retain most that you really cherish?
Growing up in a small town.
You really like that, huh?
It had its good points and its bad points, as anything does, but overall experience was great. And the thing I remember most is we had people from probably 7 or 8 different cultures within 10 houses of my house.
Oh.
We had families from Croatia, England, Denmark, Yugoslavia, Mexico, Spain, Portugal, Japan.
Why is that?
Philippines. Because they all worked at Spreckles Sugar.
Spreckles Sugar was very famous.
And they hired a lot of immigrants in the turn of the century. So I grew up as a kid with many of these immigrants that were hired when they were in their 20s in 1900. By the time I came along in the 50s, they were retired in their 70s, and they would all speak their native languages on their front porches throughout the day. So I could hear 4 or 5 different languages every day. And I could also taste their different foods. So this is where I learned to really like food.
Oh, okay. So that you basically got a taste of early cultural foods Early on, really early on, huh?
Yes. And
Nice.
the house across the street was Anna and Chris Christensen. They were from Denmark.
Denmark.
And till she moved out of that house as a very old lady, she cooked on a wood-burning stove.
Oh, nice.
So whenever she cooked on the stove, you could see the smoke coming out the chimney in the back of the house, and you could sniff the air, and you could tell whether she was making cookies or not. So you always knew when to appear at the back gate.
I used to have a little old lady that used to do that too, a little neighbor.
And
She
being
used to come
Danish,
up.
she made a lot of cookies.
Yeah, nice. Did you drive as a juvenile? 15,
Yes.
16?
Yeah, when I was 16, I got my license.
You're a car enthusiast now. Did you really have a passion for cars early on?
I was an average kid that just saw cars, 4 wheels, and a radio. And not everybody had a radio in those days, and not everybody had a heater either.
Okay.
Those are optional items on cars. So when I was 16, my dad said, well, you probably expect to drive now, don't you? And I said, yes.
Of course.
And he said, well, what do you expect to drive? And that was the first shot of electricity through me. And I said, well, I kind of thought I could drive either your car or Mother's car.
Get a Camaro.
Yeah, and he said, well...
Were there Camaros back then?
No.
No, there were Camaros, huh? No.
So his comment to that was, well, I don't see your name on the registrations. That was the fatal electrical shock. I could see where this conversation was going.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, well, what would I be driving then? And he said, well, there's the old 1939 Buick parked in the backyard. And I said, Dad, that's the dog house. We had a Dalmatian, and he lived in the back seat. And I'll never forget what he said. He said, well, it seems to me that you and the dog have something to discuss then, doesn't it?
Oh, geez.
And he walked off. So I talked to him later, and he said, well, you can have the Buick. And I said, yeah, but the engine burns so much oil, it drips all over the place, and the clutch won't even get you up a driveway. That's why you stopped driving it. Now that I'm older, I realize he put it in the backyard for the doghouse, knowing someday I would probably want a car.
Yeah.
And his whole plan was to have me rebuild the engine and the clutch on the car so I would learn what made it run, which I did. And that, speaking of automobiles, and that is what started my love of old cars, was restoring that 1939 Buick.
So at 16, basically.
Yeah, so not only did he make me self-learn, and he helped me if I came to a problem, because he knew mechanics. So not only did I learn to rebuild a car, I developed a love of cars, and from then on, I started collecting old cars.
Good.
And I've moved up now to my oldest car is a 1913 Overland.
Overland.
Crank start, gas headlights, and right-hand drive as an American car. All American cars were right-hand drive before 1913 or 14.
Nice. Now they're all
Left-hand drive. Yeah.
I had to think about that. Wait.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, left.
People like, where do I sit? Where do I drive? Yeah. So that started me out on a lifelong hobby.
Nice. You mentioned your father. What did your father and your mother do? You as a juvenile, what were their professions?
Well, my father they called him storeroom superintendent, but in common English, he was a purchasing agent for the Spreckle Sugar Company. And he was in control of all the inventory. Anything that went into Spreckle Sugar building other than sugar beets or items to make sugar, but anything mechanical he was in charge of. Purchasing it, keeping track of it. So it was a very busy job.
So it's not just you that was born in Spreckles that has a good life history in Spreckles. It's also your parents, right?
Right. My father came to that house in the winter of 1903 when he was just a baby in a shoebox, you might say. So.
How about your mother?
She grew up on the house right behind Rotten Robbie on South Main Street in Salinas, the greenhouse behind it. Mm-hmm. And that was way out in the country then.
Back then,
because Salinas ended where Bank of America is now on San Luis Street. But she was the happiest kid in Salinas because the first year she went to Salinas High, which was, I think, like 1919 or so, that was the first year it opened. So all she had to do was walk across the street, and all the other kids that went there had to walk all the way from downtown Salinas, way out in the country on a dirt road. Yeah.
That's why she got that promotion.
She was a happy kid, yeah. And she was secretary to the bank manager of Monterey County Bank until she got married, and then after that she was a housewife, but she did a tremendous amount of charity work with the Salinas Concert Association and the Salinas Women's Club and youth organizations.
Wow, so that's where you get your activism is from your mom.
Yeah, well, from both my parents.
Oh, okay.
A lot of kids grow up with parents that go to sports events. I grew up with parents that went to board of directors meetings.
And that's basically what you do.
And
now.
that's what I do now.
You do a
Yeah,
lot now,
I mean, I learned that when they went into a board of directors meeting with adults, I was to be seen and never heard, no matter what.
At 18, just wrap up this little phase here of your.
I went to Hartnell, graduated from high school.
At 18.
At
18.
I went to Hartnell. And I went to Hartnell, and then I went to Hartnell again.
Nice.
And then I went out into the work world.
Into the work world.
And later on in my late 40s.
What was your first job at?
I went to Heald Business College and got a degree in computer accounting, and that gave me one of the best jobs that I ever had.
Awesome. And we'll get back to that a little later on. Let's go inside and get ourselves some grub.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Awesome. Let's go.
That's my first time to see that.
Oh, yeah?
Spreckles.
I'm not from here.
Look at
Oh, where are
this.
you from?
All right, Shogun. So this is our menu. Have you been here before, Jim?
Yeah.
Nice. Let's see what we have. How long has this place been here?
Oh, many years. The owners here are new owners. They bought it about 2 years ago.
Yeah, so you'll go ahead and
This is what. Oh, hi.
No, I'm still looking at it. Yeah. Just water. Oh, we'll be fine.
Where'd you get the boxed lunch here?
Oh, very nice.
They're very good. And you get a sampling of many different things.
Oh, very nice. Maybe I might want to try that out.
What you want.
Okay, we'll check that out. Actually, that's right here. Nice. So that is all these, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
These are all specialty boxes. Oh, very nice. Tempura, teriyaki, bless you. Katsu, salad, noodle soup. Andu, is it? Andu? Undu? Undan? What is that? Ramen? Roman. Dunbury?
Beijing. Oh, there you are.
Sushi combination. Sashimi.
You want to see the hurt that? But there's still plenty. Next one.
Wow, there it is. These are the rolls, huh? Thank you.
We'll be back together.
Okay. Hi. This is my friend John Mungia, and he is going around for his own use on foods that he's never tried. He videos himself eating it and describing it as he eats it. So this year, he did that all last year, and this year he's starting to do it with two of us, and I'm his first victim.
Oh.
So, and your restaurant is his first restaurant this year. So.
That's right. All right.
And this is the owner of the restaurant.
All right.